From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of the Parshat Vayakhel Pekudei, the last parshiot of Sefer Shemot, the Sefer HaGeulah, the book of redemption. If we ask ourselves, what is the climax of this book? Is it the Exodus from Egypt? No, that took place in chapter 13, chapter 12 of Exodus. Is it the splitting of the sea? No, that was back in Parshat Beshalach. Was it the Ten Commandments? No, that was all the way back in chapter 20 of the book. Rather, the climax is the placement of all the vessels of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, in their proper place. And with that, the presence of God rests on the holy tent, on the tabernacle, with the Jewish people. That's the climax of this book. But where else do we find that there is a cloud that rests with the Jewish people? Where else do we find a tabernacle of sorts? Is this the very first tabernacle of the Jewish people? Is this the very first sanctuary that the Jewish people ever had? I heard a beautiful thought when I was at Yeshivat Har Tzion. I believe I heard it from Rabbi Yaakov Meidan. And he said that you have to go back to the Avot, back to the forefathers and the mothers. And there, in Parshat Chayei Sarah, in Bereshit, in Genesis, we find that Sarah passed away. And then Yitzchak comes in, and he takes Rivka, his new bride, into his home. He brought her into the tent, Sarah, his mother. The actual syntax is, he brought her into the tent of Sarah, his mother, but the rabbis read it like this. He brought Rivka into the tent, it was Sarah, his mother. That somehow, Rivka had the same qualities of Sarah. Everything he missed about Sarah was found in Rivka as well. And behold, this new bride, coming from far away, turned out to be just like Sarah, his mother. But Rashi, based on Midrash Rabbah, takes it one step further. And he says, Klomar, Varehi Sarah imo, indeed it was Sarah. Shekol zman shesarah kayemet, as long as Sarah was alive. Hayaner daluk me'erev Shabbat le'erev Shabbat. There was always a candle lit from Sabbath Eve to Sabbath Eve. Miraculously, somehow that candle which she lit on this eve of Sabbath would last throughout the entire week. The Shabbos and the spirit of Shabbos cast its aura on the entire week till the next week when she'd light it again. Uvracha mitzuyah ba'isa, and the dough, presumably the Shabbos dough, the dough from which she drew some chalash, from which she drew some gifts for the Kohanim, for the holy people. This dough was always blessed. Presumably, the dough was always increasing. They never ran out of dough. You took a small amount and it continued to grow and to increase. Vanan kashur ala oil. And, most mystically, there was a cloud that was tied, that was on top of the tent of Sarah. And Mishumeta pasku. Once Sarah died, all of this was gone. It was, in some ways, like the destruction of the very first Beit HaMikdash. Uchshabat Rivka chazru. When Rivka came, it all came back. The first temple was destroyed. The second temple of Rivka was built again. And I suppose it would be Bilhah and Zilpah and Rachel and Leah who would establish the ultimate third temple. Why do I say it's a temple? We say it's a temple because if we look in our parsha, what are the essentials of the tabernacle? Well, he built the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Samtash Shamat Aron Ha'idud, he put the ark there. Sakota al Haron et haparochet. Then he put the curtain to separate the holy ark from the other sections. The ark, after all, is in the Holy of Holies. What's right after the Holy of Holies? V'veitat hashulchan. Then you have to bring the shulchan, the table that has the 12 showbread. Varachta darko, you have to lay it out. V'veitat hamenorah. And then they bring the menorah. V'aleitat neroteha. Then you put the menorah and you lit the candles. V'avnatata et mizbach hazahav liktoret. And then you put the altar of gold for the ketoret, for the incense. Lifnei aron haidut. All of these are in front of the great ark, which is separated with the parochet, with the curtain. V'samtat masach hapetach l'mishkan. And with that, you cover it up, and that is the holiest part of the temple. The ark, that's the Holy of Holies. But right outside the Holy of Holies, we have what's called the Heichal. And in that section, there are three things. The Shulchan, the Menorah, and the Mizbach HaZahav. The table with the showbread, the menorah with its candles, and the altar of incense. Sarah and Rebecca, they had all these three elements. They had the Ner Daluk, they had that light from Shabbos to Shabbos. That was the menorah. They had the Beracha Metzuya Ba'isa, they had the blessing in the dough. That was the Shulchan. That was the holy table with the showbread. And the Hanan Kashur al Oel, the cloud, that's the cloud from the incense altar. Sarah and Rebecca, in their own homes, had a place where God could rest because there was a holy table, there was a holy lamp, and with that, they had a cloud of God on top. That's the Mishkan. The Mishkan brings back the glory of the Imahot, the glory of our matriarchs. And with that, the holy presence can rest with us. But the question is, what about today? We don't have a holy sanctuary, we don't have a holy menorah, there's no temple today. What about now? Well, the Parsha gives a hint as to how we can do that. At the beginning of the Parsha, it says, Vayakhel Moshe kol bnei Yisrael. Moshe gathered all the Jewish people before erecting the ark and the tabernacle. And he said, Zeh hadavar asher tzivah Hashem. This is what God commanded, that on the seventh day should be a holy Sabbath, Shabbat Shabbaton, a Sabbath of Sabbaths to God. You know how you can keep this sanctuary going? Through the Shabbos. On Shabbos we have the challah, we have the special bread on the special table. On Shabbos we have the candles, a special candelabra. And on Shabbos, hopefully, we too can have the presence of God. And therefore, at the end of the parsha, when it says, "Ki anan Hashem al mishkan yomam ve'eshti alayla bo le'nei kol bnei Yisrael b'chol masehem," the cloud of God is on that sanctuary in the day, the fire at night, in front of all the Jewish people for all their travels. All their travels, wherever we go. What if the tabernacle is destroyed? What if the holy sanctuary in Jerusalem is destroyed? How do we keep that going? The rabbis have already taught us, that our matriarchs have already taught us, that in a home, with the proper table, the proper candles, the proper spirit, we too can continue the presence of God in our own homes. We can make our own mishkan, we can make our own holy place. Hopefully God will rest there. Hopefully it will be not just a table, not just candles, but hopefully the presence of God as well. Through Shabbat, we have that sanctuary of time. We can also make a holy space, a holy time, just as they made a holy place in those days. And as Sarah and Rebecca taught us, we too can make holy homes. This story in our Parsha is not a story of some tabernacle gone by, but rather is a story, hopefully, of our own homes today. Thank you for joining us for our discussion, Parsha Vayakhel Pekudei. And please join us each week for our discussions here at the Anshe Sfar Beth El Emeth congregation in Memphis, Tennessee. I want to thank Jason Lefkowitz for making today's presentation possible. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.